Captain Lee Minho had been flying transport ships for 23 years. He had seen engine failures before. He had navigated through asteroid fields and solar storms. He had dealt with panic and crisis. But nothing in his long career had prepared him for this moment. The times Horizon's dream times shuddered violently. Alarms screamed through every corridor. Red emergency lights flashed across the bridge. Minho gripped the armrests of his captain's chair and forced himself to stay calm. 3,000 colonists were depending on him. 3,000 people who trusted him to get them safely to their new home. "Report," he said, his voice steady despite the chaos. Engineer Choi Dae-hyun's hands flew across his console. The young man's face was pale with fear. But he worked quickly. "Captain, we have multiple cascade failures in the primary engine core. The containment field is collapsing. If we don't shut it down in the next 2 minutes, the whole ship will. Shut it down. Now." Minho didn't need to hear the rest. He knew what happened when containment fields failed. Dae-hyun's fingers danced across the controls. The ship shuddered one more time. Then the deep hum of the engines died. The emergency lights seemed dimmer in the sudden silence. "Engine core offline," Dae-hyun said quietly. "We're dead in space, Captain." Minho looked at the view screen. They had been traveling through an uncharted nebula, trying to save time on their journey. Now the swirling purple and blue gases surrounded them like a beautiful prison. No nearby planets, no space stations. Nothing but empty space, for light years in every direction. "Life support?" Mingyu asked. Dr. Park Ji-won spoke up from her station. The medical officer had come to the bridge when the alarm started. "Running on backup power. At current consumption rates, we have 72 hours. Maybe less if people panic. 72 hours. 3 days to live." Pilot Nam Eunji turned in her seat. "Captain, should I send a distress signal?" Minho nodded. "Send it on all frequencies. Universal distress code. Let everyone within range know we need help." Eunji worked quickly. Within moments, the signal was broadcasting. A simple message repeated over and over. Asterisk. Ship in distress. Engine failure. 3,000 souls aboard. Coordinates attached. Please help. Asterisk. The bridge fell silent as they waited. Minutes passed. Then, an hour. The crew tried not to look at each other. They all knew the truth. They were too far from any major shipping lanes, too far from colonies or military outposts. Help might not come in time. Down in the passenger sections, Colony Administrator Kang Sora moved through the corridors. She spoke to families huddled in their quarters. She told them to stay calm. She told them help was coming. She smiled and projected confidence, even as fear gnawed at her heart. Sora had convinced these people to leave their homes. She had shown them beautiful pictures of their new world. She had promised them a better life. Now she might have led them all to their deaths. A mother grabbed Sora's arm. "Administrator, is it true? Are we really going to die out here?" Sora looked into the woman's frightened eyes. She thought about lying, but these people deserved the truth. "We've sent a distress signal." The woman's grip tightened. "But what if no one comes?" "Then we'll figure something else out," Sora said with more confidence than she felt. "We haven't given up yet." Back on the bridge, responses began to arrive. The first came from a cargo hauler 3 systems away, too far to reach them in time. The captain sent his regrets and promised to alert others. More responses trickled in. A mining operation sent their sympathies but explained their ships weren't equipped for rescue. A military patrol was responding to an emergency in another sector. A passenger liner was too far away. Each negative response felt like another nail in their coffin. Security Chief An Tae-jun paced behind the captain's chair. The former military officer had kept order among the passengers, but he could feel the fear growing. Soon, fear would turn to panic, and panic could kill them faster than life support failure. "Captain," Eunji said suddenly, "we have another response coming in." "Put it through," Minho said. The communication was text only. The message was short. Asterisk, Signal received. Checking coordinates. Stand by. Minho frowned. Where did that come from? Daehyun checked his console. His frown deepened. Captain, according to the signal origin, it came from quarantine zone Theta 9. The bridge went silent. Even Taejun stopped pacing. That's impossible, Jiwon whispered. Minho felt ice spread through his chest. Everyone knew about the quarantine zones, areas of space that were forbidden to all ships, places where something terrible had happened. Theta 9 was one of the oldest quarantine zones. It had been sealed off for centuries. Are you sure? Minho asked. Daehyun nodded slowly. Yes, Captain. The signal definitely originated from inside the quarantine zone. Another message appeared on the screen. Asterisk. Confirmed. Distance calculated. We can reach you in 71 hours. Coming now. Asterisk. Eunji looked back at the captain. Should I respond? Minho stared at the message. 71 hours. They had 72 hours of life support. Whoever was coming would arrive just in time. If they were really coming, if this wasn't some kind of mistake. Captain, Taejun said carefully. Theta 9 is called the world of death. Every species that goes there disappears. We all know the stories. I know the stories, Minho said quietly. If something from there is coming here. Taejun didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Minho made his decision. Respond. Thank them for their help. Captain, are you sure? Jiwon asked. Maybe we should wait. Maybe another ship will respond. We don't have time to wait, Minho said. If they can reach us in 71 hours, they might be our only chance. Yoonji sent the response. Then she pulled up information on Theta 9 from the ship's database. What she found made her blood run cold. Captain, you should see this. The main view screen displayed the official Galactic Council entry for Quarantine Zone Theta 9. The file was old, dating back almost 400 years. It listed the system's original name, Sol System, the third planet, Earth. Jiwon read aloud from the file. Initial contact with Earth species, 2447. Hostile first contact. Species designated as humans. Extended conflict followed. Vral Consortium invasion of Earth, 2454. Surface bombardment successful. Vral fleet returned for occupation, 2455. Fleet lost. All contact ceased. Subsequent expeditions, 47. Survivors, 0. Status, extreme hazard. Full quarantine recommended. The file concluded with a single line in red text. Warning. The world of death. Do not approach under any circumstances. Minho felt every eye on the bridge turn toward him. He had just accepted help from a dead world. From a place that had swallowed 47 expeditions without a trace. From something so dangerous that the entire galaxy had agreed to stay away. Captain, Taejun said slowly. What have we done? Minho looked at the countdown timer on his screen. 71 hours until arrival. 72 hours until their life support failed. He had made his choice. This. Rondok. Now they would all live with the consequences. We've asked for help, Minho said quietly. Now we wait and see what answers. In the corridors below, Sora continued to comfort the passengers. She didn't know yet that help was coming. She didn't know that their rescuers came from humanity's tomb. She moved through the ship, holding hands and whispering reassurances, unaware that in 71 hours, everyone aboard would learn what had become of the humans after the galaxy left them to die. The Time's Horizon's dream times drifted silently through the nebula. The distress signal continued to broadcast. And somewhere in the darkness, something was coming. Something from the world of death. Something that had heard their cry for help and decided to answer. The news spread through the Time's Horizon's dream times like wildfire. Within hours, Every passenger knew that help was coming from Theta 9, from Earth, from the world of death. Panic followed close behind the news. Sora stood in the main passenger hall, surrounded by hundreds of frightened colonists. Voices rose in anger and fear. People shouted questions at her. Children cried. Someone threw a cup across the room. "You've killed us all!" A tall alien with blue skin screamed. "Better to die from life support failure than let the Deathworlders take us." "Everyone calm down," Sora said, raising her voice. "We don't know what's coming. We only know that someone responded to our distress signal." "We know exactly what's coming," an elderly woman said. Her species had 4 arms, and she wrung all of them nervously. "My grandmother told me stories about Earth. About the humans. They were monsters before the Vral attacked them. Who knows what they became after?" Sora looked around the hall. She saw the same fear on every face. These were people from a dozen different worlds, a dozen different species. But they all shared the same terror of Earth. "Let me tell you what I know," Sora said. "I know we're dying. I know our life support will fail in less than 3 days. I know that someone heard our call and decided to help. Maybe they're dangerous. Maybe they're not. But right now, they're our only hope." "Hope?" The blue-skinned alien laughed bitterly. "There is no hope with humans." On the bridge, Captain Minho studied everything the ship's computer had about Earth. The file was old, but it painted a clear picture. Humans had been a young species when they joined the galactic community. They had seemed friendly at first, but they had also seemed strange. Their planet was harsh compared to most worlds. Heavy gravity, extreme weather, dangerous animals, diseases that could kill in days. The other species had called Earth a death world. They had called humans death worlders. It was meant as an insult. Humans had just laughed and agreed. Then came the Vral Consortium. 5 species working together, all of them hungry for new territory. They had looked at Earth and seen a perfect world for colonization. They had told the humans to leave or die. Humans had chosen to fight. The war lasted 7 years. Humans had been outnumbered and outgunned, but they had fought with a ferocity that shocked the galaxy. They had used tactics that other species found horrifying. They had refused every offer of surrender. Finally, the Vral had gotten tired of losing ships and soldiers. They had decided to simply destroy Earth from orbit. They had burned the surface with plasma weapons. Oceans had boiled. Cities had melted. 70% of Earth's surface had been turned to glass and ash. The Vral had declared victory and gone home to celebrate. 1 year later, they had returned to claim their prize. Their entire fleet had vanished without a trace. No distress calls. No debris. Nothing. The galaxy had sent investigators. Those ships had also vanished. Over the next century, 47 expeditions had gone to Earth. None had ever returned. Not a single ship. Not a single message. They had all disappeared into the Sol system, like stones dropped into a dark well. Eventually, the Galactic Council had declared Earth a quarantine zone. No ships were allowed within 10 light years. The system was marked on every star chart with warnings, and everyone told stories about the world of death. "Captain," Daehyun said quietly, "I've been thinking, if nothing ever comes back from Earth, how did they have ships to respond to us?" Minho had been wondering the same thing. Maybe they built new ships. They had 400 years. But how? Daehyun insisted. Their world was destroyed. How do you rebuild a civilization from that? No one had an answer. Jiwon pulled up more files. She found reports from the war. Descriptions of human tactics. She wished she hadn't looked. Humans had fought in ways that other species found impossible to understand. They had sacrificed themselves willingly to take down enemy ships. They had fought injured when they should have been dead. They had used their own bodies as weapons when they ran out of ammunition. One report described a human soldier who had continued fighting after losing an arm. Another told of a human pilot who had rammed his damaged fighter into a Vral battleship. There were dozens of similar stories. The other species had called them insane, suicidal, monsters. They fought like they had nothing to lose, Jiwan said softly. Because they didn't, Taejun said. He had come to stand behind her, reading over her shoulder. The Vral were going to kill them all anyway, so humans decided to make them pay for it. And then the galaxy left them to die, Jiwan added. When the Vral burned their world, no one came to help. No one even protested. Everyone just watched. The bridge fell silent. They all understood the implication. Earth had called for help 400 years ago. The galaxy had ignored them. Now the times, Horizon's dream times, had called for help, and Earth was answering. Minho wondered what that meant. Was it mercy, or was it revenge? Down in the engineering section, Daehyun worked frantically to extend their life support. Every hour he could add might matter. He rerouted power from non-essential systems. He shut down entire sections of the ship to conserve oxygen. His assistant, a young woman named Yuna, worked beside him. Her hands shook as she connected cables. Are you scared? Daehyun asked, terrified. Yuna admitted. My father told me stories about humans. He said they ate other species. He said they kept slaves. He said they experimented on prisoners. Those were just propaganda stories from the war, Daehyun said. But he didn't sound certain. Were they? Yuna asked. How do we know? Everyone who goes to Earth disappears. Maybe there's a reason for that. Daehyun had no answer. He returned to his work, trying not to think about what might arrive in 60 hours. Throughout the ship, similar conversations happened. Fear spread like a disease. Some passengers talked about sabotaging the distress beacon. Others wanted to arm themselves. A few even suggested abandoning ship in the escape pods. Taejun and his security team worked constantly to prevent panic from turning into riot. But it was getting harder. People were scared. And scared people did stupid things. In her small medical bay, Jiwan prepared for the worst. She didn't know what to expect when the Earth ships arrived. But she laid out medical supplies and prepared beds for the injured. If violence came, she would be ready. One of her nurses, a young man named Kwan, helped her organize supplies. Doctor, can I ask you something? Quote, of course. Do you think they'll hurt us? Jiwan paused. She wanted to say no. She wanted to reassure him. But she had read the same files as everyone else. She had seen what humans were capable of. I don't know, she said honestly. But I think if they wanted us dead, they wouldn't have responded at all. They would have just let us die. Like, maybe they want us alive for something worse, Kwan said quietly. Jiwan had no response to that. The hours crawled by. The countdown continued. 60 hours. 50 hours. 40 hours. The life support systems wheezed and groaned. The air started to taste stale. People rationed water and food. Though everyone knew it wouldn't matter if the oxygen ran out first. Minho stayed on the bridge, watching the sensors. Watching for any sign of approaching ships. Part of him hoped they would arrive early. Part of him hoped they wouldn't arrive at all. Captain, Yoonji said, I've been thinking about the Vral fleet. The one that disappeared. Don't we? What about it? It was a full conquest fleet. Hundreds of ships. Thousands of soldiers. And it all just vanished. She turned to look at him. What could do that to an entire fleet? Minho didn't answer. He didn't want to think about it, but he couldn't stop thinking about it. The Vral had been powerful. Their fleet had conquered dozens of worlds. They had weapons that could crack planets, and something on Earth had made them disappear without a trace. Now that same something was coming to help them. Or, so it said, 24 hours before the Earth ships were due to arrive. Minho called a meeting of his senior staff. They gathered in the conference room. Jiwon, Daehyun, Taejun, Unji, and Sora. We need to make a decision, Minho said. When the Earth ships arrive, how do we respond? We should be armed, Taejun said immediately. We need to be ready to defend ourselves. Defend ourselves with what? Daehyun asked. This is a civilian transport. We have a few small arms for security. They'll have warships. So we just surrender? Taejun demanded. We asked for their help, Sora reminded him. We can't treat them as enemies when we're the ones who called them. But what if they are enemies? Taejun insisted. What if this is all a trap? What if this is all a trap? What if they are enemies? Then we're already dead, Minho said flatly. Our life support fails in 26 hours. Even if the Earth ships wanted to harm us, waiting would do the job. They wouldn't need to lift a finger. I revered the time. In 5, the room fell silent. So what do we do? Jiwon asked quietly. Minho took a deep breath. We treat them as rescuers until they prove otherwise. We welcome them aboard. We let them help us. And we hope that 400 years has changed them into something other than the monsters everyone fears. And if it hasn't? Taejun asked. Minho looked at each of them in turn. Then we die with dignity, but I won't condemn them before they even arrive. The meeting ended. Everyone returned to their duties, and the countdown continued. 12 hours, 6 hours, 3 hours. The entire ship seemed to hold its breath. People gathered in common areas, staring at screens that showed empty space. Waiting. Wondering. Fearing. 1 hour until arrival. The sensors detected them first. 3 massive objects dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of scanner range. Captain, they're here, Unji said. Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled slightly on the controls. Minho stood from his chair. Put them on screen. The main view screen flickered. The image that appeared made everyone on the bridge freeze. 3 ships hung in the darkness against the swirling nebula. But these were not the sleek, polished vessels that traveled the peaceful shipping lanes. These were warships. Battle-scarred, patched with armor plates that clearly came from different ships, different species, different wars. One ship's hull was pockmarked with what looked like weapons fire. Another had sections that glowed with barely contained energy. The third seemed to be built from pieces of at least 5 different ship designs, welded and fused together in ways that shouldn't work but somehow did. Painted across their hulls in bright white letters were their names. Asterisk, Retributions, Edge, Asterisk, Asterisk, Final Warning, Asterisk, Asterisk, Unbroken Asterisk. Those aren't rescue ships, Taejun whispered. Those are warships. Jiwon stared at the screen. They look like they've been fighting for centuries. Maybe they have been, Minho said quietly. A communication signal came through. Audio and video this time. Minho took a breath and nodded to Unji. Open the channel. Minho took a breath. Open. The screen split. On one side, the 3 warships. She wore armor. Not a spacesuit. Not work gear. Combat armor that looked like it had seen heavy use. Her face was scarred, a thin white line running from her left eyebrow down to her cheek. Her eyes were dark and hard. This was not someone who smiled easily. This is Commander Han Jisoo of the Earth Reclamation Fleet, she said. Her voice was cold and professional. We received your distress signal. Stand by for boarding procedures. Boarding? Minho asked. Commander, we appreciate your help. But this is not a negotiation, Captain, Jisoo interrupted. Your ship is dead in space. Your life support is failing. We need to assess the situation and secure your vessel before we can begin repairs. Prepare for boarding parties. The screen went dark. On the bridge, everyone looked at each other with growing alarm. They're not asking permission, Taejun said. They're taking control. We don't have a choice, Minho said. Alert all sections. Tell them to remain calm. Tell them to cooperate with the boarding parties. And if they don't cooperate? Taejun asked. Minho looked at the 3 warships on the screen. 10 minutes later, The humans arrived. They didn't use shuttles. They didn't dock. One moment, the corridors were empty. The next, armored figures materialized out of thin air in flashes of blue light. Teleportation technology, military grade. The security team in the main cargo bay watched in shock as 6 human soldiers appeared before them. Each wore full combat armor. Each carried weapons that looked far too advanced for simple rescue work. They moved with precision, fanning out to cover all angles, weapons ready. The leader stepped forward. His armor bore markings that indicated rank. Through his helmet's visor, cold eyes assessed the room. "I am Lieutenant Yoon Ha-jun," he said. His voice was filtered through his helmet, making it sound mechanical. "This area is now under Earth military jurisdiction. Where is your captain?" The security guards looked at each other nervously. One of them, braver than the rest, stepped forward. "The captain is on the bridge. But why do you need weapons?" "We're not hostile. We called for help." Ha-jun's head tilted slightly. "You called for help. We came. But we've learned not to trust anything in space. Too many things want humans dead, so we come prepared." He looked at the other guards. "Now, take me to your captain." Similar scenes played out across the ship. Human soldiers appeared in engineering, in medical, in the passenger sections. Each team moved with military efficiency, securing areas, checking for threats, marking safe zones. In the engineering section, Dae-hyun found himself face to face with a human soldier. But this one was different. Her armor had engineering tools built into it. Cybernetic implants were visible at her temples and along her arms. "I'm Bae-si Woo," she said. Her voice was friendlier than Ha-jun's, but still carried an edge. "I'm here to fix your engines." "Show me what's broken." Dae-hyun hesitated. "It's the containment field. It collapsed, and we had to shut down the whole core. I don't think it can be repaired without a full space dock." Si-woo's eyes seemed to glow slightly. Her cybernetic implants activated, scanning the engine systems. "You shut it down correctly. Good. That saved your lives." She walked to the main engine console and began working. Her fingers moved impossibly fast, enhanced by her cybernetics. "How can you possibly?" Dae-hyun started. "I've fixed worse with less," Si-woo said without looking up. "You learn to improvise, when every spare part is something you had to scavenge from enemy wrecks." Dae-hyun watched her work. She bypassed systems he thought were essential. She rerouted power in ways that shouldn't work. She pulled components from her own equipment and integrated them into the ship's systems. It was chaos, but it was organized chaos. The work of someone who had spent years making impossible repairs under impossible conditions. In the medical bay, Ji-won met Dr. Shin Mina. The human doctor arrived with 2 assistants, all carrying equipment that looked both advanced and well-used. "I need a list of all injured or sick passengers," Mina said immediately. "Categorized by species and severity." "We have the list," Ji-won said, pulling up her files. "But most of our injuries are minor. The main concern is stress and 3,000 people in a dying ship for 72 hours? Mina interrupted. "You'll have panic attacks, stress-induced illnesses, and probably a few people who stopped taking critical medication because they thought they were going to die anyway." She took the list and scanned it. "I've dealt with worse. We'll handle this." Ji-won watched as Mina and her team began organizing triage. They moved with brutal efficiency. No wasted motion. No unnecessary words. They treated medicine like a military operation. "Excuse me," Ji-won said carefully. "Where did you train?" Mina glanced up. "Train? I was 9 years old when I performed my first surgery. My teacher was dying, and someone needed to remove the shrapnel from her chest." She returned to her work. "You learn fast when people die if you don't." On the bridge, Minho met Lieutenant Ha-jun face to face. The human had removed his helmet, revealing a young face that had seen too much war. His eyes held the same hardness as Commander Jisoo's. "Captain Lee Minho," Hajun said. I need your ship's complete schematics, crew manifest, and passenger list. I also need to know if you have any weapons aboard. We're a civilian transport, Minho said. We have a few small arms for security. That's all. Hajun nodded. Good. My teams will secure your ship, deck by deck. We'll have your engines operational within 6 hours. Life support will be stabilized in 3. Until then, my soldiers will maintain order. Lieutenant, I appreciate your help, but my crew can. Your crew is exhausted and scared, Hajun said bluntly. Half your passengers are on the edge of panic. Your security team is spread too thin. We're here to help, but we're going to do it our way. Because our way keeps people alive. Minho bristled. This is still my ship. Hajun met his eyes. There was no hostility there. Just cold practicality. Yes, it is. But right now, your ship is our mission. And we don't fail missions. He paused. Captain, I know you're afraid of us. Everyone is. But we didn't come here to hurt you. We came because someone called for help. Now let us do our job. Throughout the ship, the human teams worked. They moved through corridors with weapons ready, clearing each section. They set up defensive positions at key junctions. They established communication networks. They treated everything like a combat zone, because to them, everything was a combat zone. Sora encountered a human soldier in one of the passenger sections. He was checking rooms, marking them safe. His weapon never left his hands. She watched him work for a moment, then gathered her courage. Excuse me, she said. Is all this really necessary? The weapons? The soldiers? We're just civilians. The soldier stopped and looked at her. He was young, maybe in his 20s, but his eyes were old. Ma'am, I've been a soldier since I was 12. I've fought pirates, raiders, and things from dark space that your species doesn't even have names for. Earth taught us that safety is something you fight for every single day. So yes, the weapons are necessary. Because we don't know what's out here. And we won't let anyone else disappear into the darkness. Sora realized something then. These humans weren't being hostile. They were being cautious. This was how they survived. This was how they stayed alive. On a world that everyone else had abandoned. In engineering, Siwoo had already bypassed 3 major system failures. Daehyun watched in amazement as she improvised solutions that no engineer at any academy would have taught. How did you learn to do this? He asked. Siwoo didn't look up from her work. When Earth was burning, we had to fix our ships with whatever we could find. Alien tech we barely understood. Parts that weren't designed to work together. We learned or we died. She pulled a burnt component free and replaced it with something from her pack. You know what the most important thing about engineering is? What? Making it work. Doesn't matter if it's elegant. Doesn't matter if it's by the book. If it works, it's good enough. She activated the replacement part. Systems hummed back to life. We call it scrap engineering. Everything is spare parts. Everything can be used. You just have to be creative. By the 3rd hour, the situation on the Times Horizon's Dream Times had changed completely. The human soldiers had secured every section. Medical teams were treating patients. Engineering teams were making repairs. And slowly, the passengers began to realize something. The humans weren't there to conquer them. They were there to save them. But they were doing it the only way they knew how. With weapons ready and armor on. Because 400 years ago, the galaxy had taught them a simple lesson. Trust no one. Expect betrayal. And always be ready for a fight. On the bridge, Minho watched the status reports update. Life support was stabilizing. The engines were coming back online. The human teams were working miracles. But he couldn't shake the feeling that he was seeing only a fraction of what Earth had become. These soldiers, These engineers, these medics, they were professionals. They were efficient, but they were also hard in ways that peaceful species never were. "Captain," Unji said quietly, "I don't think they sent a rescue mission." "What do you mean?" "I mean, they don't have rescue missions. They only have military operations. Everything they do is through that lens." She looked at him. "They came to help us, but they came as soldiers. Because that's all they know how to be anymore." Minho understood. Earth hadn't sent help. They hadn't sent comfort, or mercy, or kindness. They had sent survivors, warriors who had learned to turn every situation into a battlefield, because that was the only way they knew to stay alive. 6 hours after the humans arrived, the engines came back online. The deep thrumming sound that filled the ship was the most beautiful thing anyone had ever heard. People cheered in the corridors. They hugged each other and cried with relief. In engineering, Daehyun stared at the displays in disbelief. "It works. It actually works." Siwoo wiped grease from her hands. "Of course it works. I told you it would." She had spent 6 hours straight working on the engines without rest. No breaks. No food. Just constant work. The field containment is held together with scavenged parts and prayers, but it'll hold long enough to get you where you're going. "How long did you work without stopping?" Daehyun asked. Siwoo shrugged. 6 hours isn't long. I once kept a ship running for 3 days without sleep while we were being chased by pirates. She started packing up her tools. "You do what needs doing." Daehyun watched her. She looked young, maybe his age, but there was something in her movements, something in her eyes, that spoke of experiences he couldn't imagine. "Can I ask you something?" "What? What happened to Earth? Really happened? The files just say the surface was destroyed." But Siwoo was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke, her voice distant. "The Vral bombed Earth for 3 months. They turned our cities to glass, boiled our oceans, killed billions of people. My great-great-grandmother watched it happen from an underground shelter. She was 7 years old." Daehyun felt sick. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." "You asked," Siwoo continued. "So I'll tell you. After the bombing stopped, the survivors went deeper underground. They dug into the rock. They built cities in the dark. They survived on recycled air and synthetic food. And they started planning." She looked at him. "Every child born after the war was taught to fight, to build, to survive, because we knew someone would come back to finish the job. And when the Vral returned, we were ready." Siwoo's expression hardened. "We took their fleet apart, ship by ship. We used their own weapons against them. We learned from every ship we destroyed, and we sent a message to the galaxy. Earth remembers." In the medical bay, Jiwon worked alongside Mina, treating patients. The human doctor moved through the sick and injured with practiced efficiency. She spent exactly the right amount of time with each patient. No more, no less. "You've done this before," Jiwon observed. "Many times. Triage is a way of life on Earth," Mina said. She was examining an elderly alien whose breathing was labored. "Too many patients. Not enough supplies. You learn to prioritize. Save who you can. Don't waste time on lost causes." She administered medication smoothly. "Sounds cold. I know. But it keeps people alive." Jiwon watched Mina treat 5 patients in the time it would have taken her to treat 2. "How many people have you saved?" "Thousands." Mina moved to the next patient. "How many have I lost?" "Also thousands." "You do the math and keep working." A young mother approached them, holding a small child. "Please, doctors. My daughter. She has trouble breathing." Mina examined the child quickly. Her cybernetic implants scanned vital signs. "Minor respiratory distress from poor air quality. She'll be fine now that life support is working." She prepared an inhaler. "Use this if she has trouble. The symptoms should clear up in a few hours." The mother's relief was visible. Thank you. Thank you so much. After she left, Jiwan said, "You were very gentle with her. Different from how you treat the crew. Children are different." Mina said simply. "They didn't ask for this. They didn't choose to be here." She prepared supplies for the next patient. "Earth lost so many children in the war. We protect them now. All of them. Doesn't matter what species." As the hours passed, the crew of the Times Horizon's Dream Times began to understand their rescuers better. The humans were hard and cold and always ready for violence, but they were also efficient and professional and incredibly good at their jobs. In the passenger sections, Lieutenant Hajun's soldiers maintained order, but they also helped where they could. They shared their rations with hungry colonists. They fixed broken equipment. They even entertained children with stories, though their stories were about battles and survival rather than fairy tales. Sora watched one soldier, a young woman, showing a group of children her armor. The kids were fascinated, asking questions. The soldier answered each one patiently. "Is it heavy?" one child asked. "Very heavy," the soldier said. "But you get used to it. I've been wearing armor since I was 10 years old." 10? The child's eyes went wide. "Why so young?" The soldier's smile faded. "Because that's when the raiders attacked our settlement. I had to learn to fight or die. I chose to fight." Sora felt a chill. 10 years old. This woman had been a soldier since she was 10. What kind of world created child soldiers? A world that had no choice, she realized. A world where everyone fought or everyone died. On the bridge, Minho spoke with Commander Jisoo via video link. The commander hadn't come aboard the ship. She remained on her vessel, coordinating the operation. "Commander, I want to thank you," Minho said. "Your people have done incredible work. We would have died without your help." Jisoo's expression didn't change. "Don't thank us yet. Your engines are repaired but unstable. You'll need to reach a proper space dock for full repairs. We'll escort you to the nearest station." "That's not necessary." "It's necessary," Jisoo interrupted. "We don't leave jobs half-finished. You'll have an escort until you're safe." She paused. "Besides, your ship is carrying 3,000 souls. We take that seriously." Minho studied her scarred face. "Can I ask you something, Commander?" "Ask. Why did you come?" "Everyone says Earth hates the galaxy. That you want revenge for being abandoned. So why help us?" Jisoo was silent for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was tired. "You're right. We do remember being abandoned. We remember calling for help while our world burned. We remember watching billions die while the galaxy did nothing." She looked directly at the camera. "But we made a choice 400 years ago. We could become monsters. We could seek revenge, or we could be better than those who abandoned us. So this is mercy?" "No," Jisoo said flatly. "This is defiance. The galaxy wanted us to die. We survived. The galaxy wants us to be monsters. We refuse. Every time we answer a distress call, we prove them wrong." Her eyes hardened. "We're not doing this for you, Captain. We're doing this for us. To prove that humans are more than what the galaxy made us." The conversation ended. Minho sat back in his chair, thinking about Jisoo's words. Earth hadn't forgiven, but they hadn't let their pain turn them into villains either. They had chosen a third path: survival with purpose. In the corridor, Taejun approached Hajun. "Lieutenant," Taejun said, "can I speak honestly?" "Always prefer honesty," Hajun replied. "When you first arrived, I thought you were here to conquer us, to take the ship, but you're not. Are you?" Hajun shook his head. "We have no interest in conquest. We have enough problems just keeping Earth running." He checked his weapon. "A habit. But we are cautious, because we learned the hard way that the universe is full of things that want to hurt you." "Is it hard?" Taejun asked. "Living like that?" Always expecting attack? It's the only way we know, Hajun said. On Earth, every child learns to fight by age 8. Every teenager knows basic engineering and medicine. Everyone serves in the defense forces for at least 5 years. We have no choice. Our world is surrounded by enemies who would love to see us dead. Where then? Where then? Where then? But you still came to help strangers. Hajun smiled slightly. It was the first time Taejun had seen any warmth in his expression. Because we remember being the strangers who needed help. We remember what it felt like to be abandoned. So when someone calls for help, we come, even if it's dangerous, even if it costs us. Because that's the world we want to build. One where no one is left behind. Throughout the ship, similar conversations happened. The crew and passengers began to see their rescuers as more than just soldiers. They saw them as people shaped by tragedy, people who had every reason to be cruel but chose not to be. Daehyun worked with Siwoo for hours, learning her improvised engineering methods. She taught him tricks that no academy would approve of, but that worked in practice. Why share this knowledge? Daehyun asked. Isn't it valuable? Knowledge only helps if it's used, Siwoo said. The galaxy abandoned Earth. Fine. But we won't abandon the galaxy. We'll teach anyone who wants to learn. We'll help anyone who asks. Because that's how you build something better than what came before. Jiwon and Mina developed a mutual respect born of shared professional dedication. They spoke about medicine, about triage, about the impossible choices doctors sometimes faced. Do you ever regret it? Jiwon asked. Living the way you do? Always prepared for war? Every day. Mina admitted. I dream about a life where I treat common colds and set broken bones. Where the worst emergency is someone eating bad food. She packed away her medical supplies. But that's not the world we have. So we do what we must. As the 20th hour of the operation approached, the Times Horizon's Dream Times was fully operational. The engines ran smoothly. Life support was stable. The passengers were calm. The mission was complete. Hajun gathered his soldiers in the main cargo bay. Siwoo finished her last checks in engineering. Mina closed down the temporary medical station. The human teams prepared to return to their ships. Minho called an all-hands meeting. The entire crew and as many passengers as could fit gathered in the common areas. Human soldiers stood among them, still armed, still ready. I want to say something, Minho announced. When we sent that distress signal, we were desperate. We thought we might die. Then Earth responded. And many of us were terrified. We had heard the stories. We knew the reputation. He looked around at the human soldiers. But you saved us. You worked tirelessly. You treated us with respect. Even when we feared you. You asked for nothing in return. Hajun spoke up. We did ask for something, Captain. We asked that you remember. Remember that Earth answered when you called. Remember that we kept our word. And remember that the stories about us are just that, stories. We're not monsters. We're survivors. And survivors help each other. A wave of applause spread through the crowd. Slowly at first. Then, building. The humans looked uncomfortable with the appreciation. They hadn't come for thanks. They had come because it was the right thing to do. As the human teams prepared to teleport back to their ships, people approached them. They shook hands. They exchanged words of gratitude. They took pictures. One elderly passenger, the same woman who had feared humans earlier, approached Mina. I was wrong about you. I believed the stories. I'm sorry. Mina smiled sadly. The stories aren't all wrong. We are dangerous. We are capable of terrible things. But we choose not to be terrible. That's the difference. The human teams vanished in flashes of blue light. One by one, they returned to their warships. Soon only Hajun remained. He stood before Minho and saluted. Captain, your ship is secure. You have enough power to reach the nearest station. Commander Jisu's ship will escort you to ensure safe arrival. He paused. It's been an honor working with you. Minho returned the salute. The honor is ours, Lieutenant. Thank you. For everything. Hajun nodded and vanished in a blue flash. On the bridge, the crew watched as the 3 Earth warships took up escort positions. The scarred, patched vessels that had seemed so terrifying now looked protective. Guardian angels born from tragedy. The journey to the nearest station took 3 days. The Earth warships maintained their escort positions the entire time, never wavering. Their sensors swept constantly, watching for threats. Their weapons remained ready. Even in routine travel, they prepared for combat. On the Times Horizon's Dream *, life slowly returned to normal. The passengers relaxed now that the crisis had passed. Children played in the corridors. Families gathered for meals, but everyone remained aware of their silent guardians outside. Minho spent those 3 days reviewing everything that had happened. He watched recordings of the human teams working. He read reports from his crew about what they had learned, and he began to understand something important about Earth. They hadn't just survived. They had transformed. On the 3rd day, the station appeared on their sensors. It was a commercial hub, busy with traffic from dozens of worlds. Ships came and went, constantly. The station's administrator contacted them immediately. *Horizon's Dream *. This is Station Master Chen. We received your distress call days ago but were unable to respond. We're glad to see you made it. A pause. We're also detecting 3 unidentified warships in your escort. Please explain. Minho glanced at Unji. She shrugged. He opened a channel. Station Master, those ships are from Earth. They responded to our distress call and saved us. They're escorting us to ensure safe arrival. The silence that followed stretched uncomfortably long. Earth? The station master's voice was uncertain. From the Theta 9 quarantine zone? Yes. Please stand by. The communication ended. Minho could imagine the panic on the station. Earth ships hadn't been seen outside their system in 400 years. Their sudden appearance would cause alarm. 10 minutes later, the station master returned. Captain Minho, we are requesting that the Earth vessels maintain a distance of 10,000 kilometers from this station. They are not cleared for approach. Before Minho could respond, Commander Jisu's voice cut through on the same channel. Station Master Chen, this is Commander Han Jisu of the Earth Reclamation Fleet. We have no intention of approaching your station. We're simply ensuring this civilian vessel reaches safety. Once the Times Horizon's Dream Times is docked, we will depart. Commander, I need to verify your identity and intentions. The Galactic Council requires. The Galactic Council abandoned Earth 400 years ago, Jisu interrupted coldly. We owe them nothing. We came because someone needed help. Now we're leaving. That's all you need to know. Another pause. Then the station master spoke more carefully. Understood, Commander. The Times Horizon's Dream Times is cleared for docking. And thank you for your assistance. Jisu didn't respond. The Times Horizon's Dream Times began its docking approach. The 3 Earth warships maintained their distance, watching. Minho could see other ships in the area giving them a wide berth. Everyone was nervous about the legendary Deathworlders. As the Times Horizon's Dream Times connected to the station, Minho received one final communication from Jisu. Her face appeared on his screen, as cold and scarred as the first time he had seen her. Captain Minho, your ship is secure. Our mission is complete. Commander, I don't know how to thank you properly. You saved 3,000 lives. We did our duty, Jisu said. Nothing more. She paused. But I want you to do something for me. Anything. Tell them what you saw. Tell the galaxy that Earth responded. Tell them we kept our word. Tell them we came armed and ready for war, but we chose peace. Her eyes hardened. And tell them we're watching. We hear every distress call. We monitor every emergency. And we will come when called. I will, Minho promised. The galaxy needs to know what Earth has become. Jisoo nodded. Then she added, One more thing, Captain. Record this. Share it. Let everyone hear it. Before Minho could ask what she meant, Jisoo switched to an open broadcast. Her message went out on all frequencies, reaching not just the station but every ship in the area. Her voice was clear and hard. This is Commander Han Jisoo of Earth. I'm sending this message to the Galactic Council, to all member species, to anyone listening. 400 years ago, you left us to die. The Vral burned our world. We called for help. No one came. You watched billions of humans die and did nothing. You declared our planet a quarantine zone and tried to forget we existed. The bridge crew listened in stunned silence. But we didn't die. We survived. We went underground. We adapted. We became what we needed to become to stay alive. You named our world the world of death. You told stories about us. You made us into monsters in your nightmares. Jisoo leaned forward, her scarred face filling the screen. Here's the truth. We are dangerous. We are capable of terrible violence. We destroyed the Vral fleet that came back to finish us. We destroyed every expedition you sent to our world because we thought you were here to finish what the Vral started. We built weapons you can't imagine. We created soldiers who have never known peace. We turned our entire planet into a fortress. She paused. You were right to fear us. But you were wrong about what we would do with that fear. We could have built a fleet and come for revenge. We could have paid back every species that abandoned us. We had 400 years to plan it. 400 years to imagine all the ways we could make you suffer as we suffered. Another pause. The silence, across all frequencies, was deafening. We chose not to. We chose to answer distress calls instead. We chose to save lives instead of taking them. Because we remember what it felt like to be abandoned. We remember the fear, the hopelessness, the betrayal. And we refuse to inflict that on anyone else. Jisoo's voice grew colder. But make no mistake. We remember everything. We remember which species were part of the Vral consortium. We remember which governments voted to abandon us. We remember every single one of you who left us to burn. We have the names. We have the records. We forget nothing. The threat hung in the air. From this day forward, Earth is watching. We monitor your distress calls. We hear your emergencies. When someone calls for help, we will come. Anyone. Anywhere. It doesn't matter if you're human or alien. It doesn't matter if your species was our enemy. If you need help, we will answer. Jisoo's expression softened slightly, but her eyes remained hard. You tried to make us into monsters. You failed. We chose to remain human, but we are also survivors. We are warriors. We are forged in fire and blood and loss, and we are done hiding in our system. She leaned back. Earth is no longer in quarantine. We're coming back to the galaxy, not as conquerors, not as your enemies, but as the people who will answer when others won't. As the people who understand that leaving someone to die is the worst sin you can commit. A final pause. To the Galactic Council. Update your records. Earth is active again. We will respond to distress calls. We will protect those who cannot protect themselves. And if anyone tries to stop us, if anyone tries to harm those we protect, you will discover why you feared us in the first place. Jisoo's face hardened one last time. We are Earth. We are humanity. We survived. We remember. And we are watching. The transmission ended. On the bridge of the Times, Horizon's Dream asterisk, no one spoke for a long moment. Then Yoonji whispered, "That message is going to reach every corner of the galaxy. That's the point," Minho said quietly. Outside, the 3 Earth warships began to move. They turned away from the station, their scarred hulls catching the light of the nearby star. Then they jumped to faster-than-light speed and vanished, heading back toward the Sol system. back toward the world of death. But they had left something behind. A message, a promise, a warning. The recording of Commander Jisu's speech spread across the galaxy faster than light. Within hours, it reached hundreds of worlds. Within days, billions had heard it. The image of the scarred human commander, standing in her combat armor, declaring Earth's return. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Representatives from dozens of species argued about what to do. Some called for renewed quarantine. Others saw opportunity. A few, very quietly, began drafting diplomatic proposals. But everyone understood one thing. The galaxy had changed. Earth was back. And humans were not the species that had been abandoned 400 years ago. They were something new. Something forged in tragedy. Something dangerous but not evil. On the Times Horizons Dream *, Minho compiled his report. He included everything. The desperate distress call. The response from Earth. The arrival of the warships. The efficiency of the human teams. The conversations with soldiers who had been fighting since childhood. The message from Commander Jisu. He sent copies to the Colonial Authority, to the Galactic Council, to news services, to anyone who would listen. He told the truth about Earth. Not the propaganda. Not the horror stories. The truth. Dr. Park Ji-won wrote a medical report about Dr. Shin Mina and the human medical techniques. She described their brutal efficiency, their trauma-based training, their refusal to give up on any patient. She recommended that human medical knowledge be studied and shared. Engineer Choi Dae-hyun submitted a technical analysis of human engineering. He detailed how they improvised repairs with scavenged parts, how they made impossible things work, how 400 years of survival had turned them into the best engineers in the galaxy. Colony Administrator Kang Sora wrote a social report. She described the human soldiers, their discipline, their readiness for violence, but also their choice to help rather than hurt, their protection of children, their respect for life even after seeing so much death. All these reports spread through official channels. But it was the personal accounts that truly changed minds. Passengers on the Times, Horizons Dream Times, recorded videos about their experience. They talked about their fear when Earth responded, their shock at the warships, their gradual understanding that these warriors had come to save, not conquer. One video showed a human soldier playing with children, her weapon never far from her hand but her smile genuine. Another showed Siwoo explaining her improvised repairs, her cybernetic implants glowing as she worked. A third captured Mina treating patients, her efficiency born of necessity, her compassion surviving despite everything. These videos humanized Earth. They showed that behind the weapons and armor and scars were people who had suffered and survived and chosen to be better than their pain. Within weeks, the first diplomatic overtures reached Earth. Small at first, cautious, but they came. Species that had ignored Earth for 400 years suddenly wanted to talk. Trade agreements were proposed. Technology exchanges were suggested. Some even offered apologies. Earth responded to each with the same message. We will work with anyone who respects us. We will trade with anyone who deals fairly. We will protect anyone who asks for help. But we will never forget what was done to us. And we will never be vulnerable again. 6 months after the rescue of the Times Horizons Dream *, Captain Minho received a message. It was from Earth, from Commander Han Ji-soo. Captain Minho, I wanted you to know that your report had an impact. More species are reaching out to us. Some want our technology. Some want our protection. Some just want to understand how we survived. We're considering these offers carefully. We don't trust easily, but we're willing to try. The message continued. More importantly, we've answered 17 more distress calls since we saved your ship. 17 more vessels. Hundreds more lives. Word is spreading that Earth will come when called. People are starting to understand that we mean what we say. A pause. You asked me once why we came to help you. Why we didn't just let you die like the galaxy let us die. I told you it was defiance. That's true. But it's also hope. Hope that we can build something better. That the next time disaster strikes, someone will answer. That no one will feel as alone as we felt when our world burned. Another pause. Thank you for telling our story. For showing the galaxy that we're more than the monsters they imagined. We're survivors. And survivors know the value of every life. The message ended with a simple statement. Earth stands ready. When you call, we will answer. Minho sat back in his chair, looking out at the stars. Somewhere, out there, the 3 warships patrolled. Somewhere out there, billions of humans lived underground, preparing for threats that might never come. Somewhere out there, a civilization born in fire chose every day to build rather than destroy. The galaxy had tried to forget Earth. They had tried to bury the memory of their failure to help, but Earth had refused to be forgotten. They had come back, not with conquest, but with compassion. Not with revenge, but with rescue. They had sent a message to the galaxy. We are still here. We remember. We are watching. And when someone needs help, we will come, because that's what survivors do. They help others survive. On Earth, deep underground in the command center, Commander Han Jisoo looked at the display showing every distress call in their monitored space. Dozens of signals. From dozens of worlds. Most would be answered by local authorities. But some wouldn't. Some would go unanswered because they came from remote areas or dangerous regions. Those were the ones Earth watched most carefully. Commander, Lieutenant Yoon Ha-jun said, we have 3 new distress signals, all from the Outer Rim. Local authorities say they can't respond in time. Jisoo studied the locations. 3 ships in trouble. Hundreds of lives at stake. She made her decision. Deploy rescue teams. Send the times, unbroken times to the first signal. The times' final warning times takes the second. The times' retribution's edge times handles the third. She looked at Ha-jun. Standard protocol. Go in armed. Secure the situation. Save everyone you can. Yes, Commander. As Ha-jun left to coordinate the operations, Jisoo looked up at the ceiling. Above her, kilometers of rock and metal separated her from the surface, from the scarred, partially healed world that had been glassed 400 years ago. From the sky that humans had once taken for granted. They would return to that sky one day. The healing was slow, but it was happening. In another 100 years, maybe 200, humans would walk on the surface again. They would rebuild their cities, they would restore their oceans, but they would never forget what had happened. Never forget the price of survival. Never forget what it felt like to be abandoned. And they would never let anyone else feel that way. Keep monitoring the signals, Jisoo said to her crew. Someone out there needs help, and we're going to answer. Because Earth had sent a message to the galaxy. Not with words, but with actions. Not with threats, but with rescue. They had shown everyone what humans had become. Not monsters, not conquerors, not victims. Survivors who refused to let others suffer alone. And that message was spreading across the stars. Carried by every ship they saved. Every life they protected. Every call they answered. The galaxy had learned to fear the world of death. Now it was learning something more important. It was learning to trust the survivors who came when called.